This episode of All About the Gear is brought to you by BorrowLenses.com, who also provided the equipment we're reviewing today.
All right, folks, welcome back to another episode of All About the Gear. All About the Gear is shaping up to be one of our most popular shows on the TWiP network. It might be, it's looking like it might surpass TWiP in, maybe 3 or 4 years. So it's coming along. So today we're talking about a new camera. This thing just got released sometime in the September timeframe, and it's the Fujifilm X30. This is in that class of cameras that Doug and I like to talk about that has the fixed lens on there, meaning it's non-interchangeable lenses. So we're going to talk about who this camera's for, why you'd want to get this, or why you might not want to get it based on who you are, and all the sort of details about why it's cool or where it falls down. So Doug K, we're in another episode of All About the Gear. You have a hot little Fuji X30 in your hands. What do you think?
It's pretty good. I mean, first of all, this is, I think, about the 30th review we've done on All About the Gear. So look out, TWiP. We're gonna catch you.
I know. TWiP better up its game.
Yeah. And what are you wearing?
That just sounds funny coming from you.
especially for the people, especially for those who are listening to the audio.
I know. What are you wearing? So I am wearing a brand new. Let me move my microphone. Look at that.
All right.
Look at that. This is a brand new This Week in Photo t-shirt, one of many designs that we have in our new apparel store, Doug. Look at that. And guess what else in there? It just got added yesterday, and All About the Gear t-shirt is in there.
Excellent. I'm going to get an All About the Gear tank top.
Yeah, you have to wear that on the air, though. And then the viewership starts declining, and we wonder why. Right?
All right, we want to get into this, but before we start, something I want to do. At the top of the show, there's an acknowledgement for Borrow Lenses, who provided this camera and who provides a lot of the gear that we review. And I want to give a special thanks to them because they've been just a terrific partner for All About the Gear, helping us keep this show on the air. So thanks to Borrow Lenses, and if you want to try out any of the stuff that we review here, we always recommend renting it. It's not because Borrow Lenses helps us put the show on, but because it's just a great way to get past what we may think, what Frederick and I might think, but it's nothing. There's nothing quite like having the camera in your own hands to see what it's like.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I echo that about how awesome Borrow Lenses is to work with, and I want to personally thank them for helping us keep the show on. And what you say, Doug, about the companies like Borrow Lenses and Borrow Lenses in particular, the sort of niche that they fill for folks that watch this show is you can sit down and do your research and get our point of view on a particular camera. You can head over to Gordon Lang's site and what is it, Digital Camera Labs over there, and
cameralabs.com, I think.
Cameralabs.com, yeah. And then check out what he has to say in depth. You can even go over DP Review and see what they say. Then order the thing from Borrow Lenses and have it in your hands for a week or a couple days before you pull the trigger and buy one. I mean, we couldn't make those kind of informed decisions before. It was, we got a magazine ad and we're like, oh, that looks kind of cool. We go to a camera store and hold it for 5 minutes and then hand over the credit card. But now you can actually do your research.
Yeah, I think it's just great.
Yep.
Well, so
okay.
back to the X30. And another reason why it's good to rent these things is this is a camera that really was a surprise to me. This is, as you said, it's a camera with non-interchangeable lenses. It's just got a 4x zoom on it. It's a $600 camera. Here, let's take a look at it for a second. It's a $600 camera, everything built in. It's got a pretty small sensor. It's 12 megapixels, but it's also physically a small sensor. But I got to tell you, after shooting with this camera for a couple of weeks, I really got to like this camera much more than I ever expected. It is really a fun camera to shoot with, and we'll talk about, as we get into the show, why having a fun camera actually means something. It replaces the X20, 12 megapixels. Those are the basics.
Okay, so then, we were talking about this a little bit offline. some of the big questions that I have for this camera is, you put on your hat of, okay, I'm gonna go buy another camera system. You already have a DSLR, which I don't use. I have my primary system is mirrorless, is the Panasonic Lumix series. So I got GH4 and GX7, and then there's my iPhone, my 6, which goes with me all the time. So I always struggle with these cameras. Like, where would I use this? And when I look at this camera, I'm thinking, okay, I have the GX7, and there's, that ilk of cameras that are in that range. And looking up the GX7, I can get a GX7 today for around 600-ish bucks and put a lens on it, but still have the ability to interchange those lenses if I wanted to. So then I was looking forward to this because I wanted to throw that at you and say, okay, why would I get this thing, which is 12 megapixels versus a 16 megapixel interchangeable lens camera?
Yeah. And that's a really good question. Let's go right into that one. We can come back into the details afterwards. So
Okay.
this camera is $600. The GX7 is $600 without a lens. You can get the kit lens with it for only $700. It's interchangeable. It's micro four thirds. It's expandable, changeable. There's all sorts of things. The GX7 does great video. Why would you, and it's the same size. This is almost exactly the same size as the GX7. So why would you want an X30? And I got to tell you, the difference is that this camera is a lot more fun to shoot with than the GX7. Now, we're going to get flack for this already. What does fun mean?
Yeah, define fun. Yeah, that's like trying to define sexy.
Yeah, that's right. Well, it's all here on this show. Between the two of us, we've defined sexy.
Yes.
I won't go into the tank tops again. So the point is, Fuji has some really interesting things they've done. First of all, we know that Fujifilm has been a film manufacturer for a long time. So they have these terrific in-camera film emulations. They've got some new emulations or features they've added to this one. The controls on this camera are really nice. We'll look at those. The zoom is a little longer range than the kit lens for the GX7. This is a 4x. The GX7 has a 3x. But it's just a very nice, fun, general-purpose camera. I wouldn't call the GX7 a fun camera. I know I still haven't defined fun, but
I look at it and I think, okay, this is. I'm still on the fence because I think about Sony and their RX series, which is a fixed lens, but it's got that zoom on it and all these other cool things, and it's pocketable. You throw a thing in your back pocket and you're off into the races. I feel like this fits in that category, but it doesn't have the zoom on the one hand. On the other hand, it's that exercise in minimalism and restraint. So you have one camera that you can easily get to the controls. It's got a fixed focal length, so you zoom with your feet. So it gets to be more of that considered photographer's camera, whereas a camera in the point and shoot sort of RX range gives you almost infinite options, which could be, stifling at points. I don't know. That's kind of where my brain is.
Yeah, and this is not fixed focal length. This does have a 4x zoom.
Oh, it does have a 4x zoom.
Yeah,
okay.
So it has and the lens is a really nice lens. The RX has a faster lens, so it's a 3x zoom. This is a 4x. Not a huge difference there, but this zoom is very well suited to this camera. To give you an idea of what we got here, let's take a look at it. First of all, it's got almost Fuji-like controls. It doesn't have the full range of knobs that the bigger Fujis have. There just isn't the room for it. So it's sort of an in-between. It has exposure compensation. It has the PASM dial, as we call it, for manual, aperture priority, shutter priority, and program mode. To turn it on, you actually just rotate the zoom rings. It has a physical zoom ring instead of an electronic zoom. So it's really nice for zooming. This is something you don't see in modern cameras too much. And then to shut it off, you just zoom all the way to wide angle and it goes off. It has a soft ring, which can be used for different things depending on what mode you're in. It can be focus, it can be aperture. It has a nice tilt LCD. It's not touch. We're not going to beat up on the touch part of it too much.
I'm not going there.
I know.
Because
really
my EM5 is touch.
Yeah, it is. This is not the EM5 show.
Yes, it's not. These are the droids you're looking for.
That's right. So, it's got everything you need. But back to the question you're asking. So, it's not a pocketable camera. Let me give you another look. Here is the Sony RX100 by comparison. All right.
Yeah. Yeah.
That Sony fits in a pocket, barely.
Right.
Fuji does not.
Right.
Right. Same with here is the Sony A6000. Right. The A6000 from Sony is the same price roughly, except without a lens, so 600 without a lens.
Mm-hmm.
Same as the GX7, and it's about the same size as this Fuji. A6000, one of our favorite cameras of the year. It's a terrific camera.
Yeah.
But I got to tell you, this is my A6000. I own it. I love it. I wouldn't say it's a fun camera to use. It gets the job done brilliantly. But if I want to go out and have a good time, I'm going to have this. That sounds like something.
We got to dive into that. We're going to dive into
okay.
the
we're going to go into
definition of fun, right?
Yeah, feature by feature. You'll see what it is.
Yeah. So there's two questions that pop up. So Uncle Doug's definition of fun, and then also Uncle Doug's definition of pocketable. You know, like do they fit in Doug's MC Hammer parachute pants, or do they fit in Uncle Doug's skinny jeans, hipster skinny jeans? What's pocketable? So
that's right.
We have to talk about that. So let's talk about the basics of this thing. So you said $600 with its integrated lens. Let's go down just with by the numbers, what it is.
Okay. So again, it's a little bigger than the X20. Has the controls we talked about. Dedicated exposure compensation. So good controls. The exposure triangle test that we do, we score at 9 out of 12, which is a pretty good score. Great battery life. It has pop-up flash. It also has a hot shoe. Now, one of the features in the fun category, as I mentioned, are these great film emulations and built-in filters. We could talk in detail about that. But this is a camera where I found myself shooting JPEG or RAW plus JPEG and really, really enjoying it. Can do multiple exposures. Unfortunately, has a physical lens cap that you have to put on or hang on there with a tether. But that's the way it is for a lot of these cameras. Has decent bracketing. The lens is a 4x zoom, gives you a 28 to 112 millimeter equivalent. It has terrific image stabilization, but of course so does your GX7. It has terrific macro mode. Oh my God, it has this mode called super macro, which I swear can focus down to the front of the lens.
Really? That's kind of cool.
They say 1 centimeter, and I guess that's pretty damn close. But it is a great handheld macro camera because between the super macro mode that focuses really close, combined with the image stabilization, you can take those, wing on a fly kind of shots, and it really works out well.
Wow.
So that's part of the fun factor. We're going to sort of dabble on the fun thing, but handheld super macro is a really fun thing to have that you don't get on most cameras and most lenses. Okay. Great sensors. Fuji's X-Trans sensors have always delivered terrific image quality. The shutter's a little bit funky. It'll do a 4,000th of a second at small apertures, but it's a leaf shutter, which means it's sensitive to the aperture. So at large apertures, it only does 1,000th of a second. So shooting wide open in the daylight is a problem with this camera. But so you just stop it down, you're fine. It has Fuji's lens modulation optimizer, LMO, which is a gimmicky name, but what they're trying to do there is minimize the effect of diffraction that you have with small sensors that have a lot of megapixels, and it works pretty well in this. And it works. The camera shoots pretty well up to about ISO 1600, which again for something in this class is pretty much what you'd expect.
Yeah, but you coming from the A7, and do you have A7 or A7S? Which one?
I have A7S, A7, and A7R. I have all three.
And soon to be the A7 too, I would imagine.
Actually, I'm going to pass on that one, but that's another show.
Oh, that's another show. Okay. So the 1600. So with your A7S and its low light capabilities, does it feel like you're going from a Porsche into something less, or how does someone that shoots with an A7S and has that low light capability go to something that's okay at 1600?
Well, again, okay at 1600 means it's a great daytime camera. All right.
Yeah.
And that's what most people who are just out taking pictures are doing. They're shooting in the daytime. Great camera for this, and that's true of most of the cameras. Most of the Micro Four Thirds are going to top out at 1600 or 3200. My A7S, it takes great quality at ISO 25,000. So one of my jokes is I can even take pictures with my eyes closed.
Jeez. Like why? Okay, that's a whole different show.
Which makes no sense at all. Okay, so that's that's just a totally different beast. It's in a category. The A7S and the Nikon D4S are in a category all by themselves, separate from every other camera that's being made today.
Yep. Yep. Okay. Okay. So then that's the sort of the basics of the sensor and all that stuff. What's next that kind of stuck out for you?
Well, LCD we talked about. Let's go around here and take a look at it again. Really nice tiltable LCD, which is really all you need. If you're doing a lot of video, again, maybe you're happier with a GX7 or another Lumix camera, particularly one that has a fully articulating screen. This does good enough video, but if video is a major thing, then there are certainly other places that you might want to look. The autofocus is really fast. It's got excellent autofocus, and that's because Fuji has phase detection points on the image sensor, tracks motion really well. Again, maybe not quite as well as the A6000 from Sony, but pretty close.
Okay.
Good manual focus. Again, we talked about video, 1080p at 60 frames a second. Again, you can use all those film emulations. They have a new one. I can't remember their name for it, but it's essentially a Kodachrome emulation. So you get those really nice colors. Not necessarily natural, but they're fun colors that you. There's that fun word again.
Yeah.
That you get, Kodachrome type colors.
It's a fun camera. Is there a Velvia in there?
There is Velvia in there, yes, of course.
Gotta have Velvia.
Really nice.
Yeah.
It has here are a couple of things that are really nice. It has Wi-Fi. It doesn't have NFC, but it has Wi-Fi. It has a really nice app that goes with it so that you can control it in every way you'd want to, and as well as see previews, live view on your phone or mobile device.
You can copy JPEGs down to your phone to share and all that stuff.
Yeah, and control all the settings.
Because I remember you talking about the Panasonic app versus the Sony app, and now we have the Fuji app. So how do they stack up?
This and the Panasonic app are very good. Sony's not as good. Sony's a little weak in that, but Panasonic is great. Fuji's great. We just did a review of one of the Nikon cameras, which was very poor in terms of their app, but they're brand new at this. They're only a few years behind Nikon. Mm-hmm. So here's another thing that's fun, and this is something you can relate to. I don't know if you have it nearby. Do you have your Instax printer nearby? How far away is that?
Where? It's in my bag. It's over on me because I carry it with me everywhere. But you know what I do have?
Yeah. Uh-oh. He's leaving his chair, and he's coming back.
And he comes back with look at that.
Oh, you've got the Fuji camera.
Yeah, this is the Fuji Instax 210, the wide aspect ratio one.
Yeah, these Fuji cameras are great, and Frederick has the Instax printer. So this little printer, it's like $150 or something, right?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
It takes packs of takes packs of 10 images, and each image is essentially like a Polaroid. It's an instant image.
It's like a miniature Polaroid. Yep.
Right. So you and I were having lunch one day, and you had, I don't know which camera you had, but you took a picture, you quickly uploaded it to your phone and directly to your printer, right?
Yep. Okay. Exactly.
This camera goes direct to the printer.
Oh, okay. Right. Now we're talking.
So now, are we talking fun now? Huh?
Now that's cool.
Right?
That's cool. So that will speak directly to the Instax printer.
Directly. So you're sitting there, you take a picture, you like it, you select it on the back of your camera, you push a button, and it comes out of the printer.
Oh my God. Okay, that's really cool. Okay.
Right? So now you don't even need the phone. Think of all the money you save by leaving your phone at home.
Well, I mean, it's fun. Seriously, yeah, that's gonna happen. But it's fun being able to just quickly go from the phone to the printer, or from the camera that you're using to the phone, edit it, and then go to the printer. But like being able to just turn the printer on, hit a button, and give someone the photo that you just took, that's priceless.
And let's say you want to do it in black and white. Let's say you want to do Velvia emulation. Yeah. Let's say you want to do Kodachrome emulation. All comes out on the printer. Just that easy. Touch of a button.
Doug, you're killing me here.
Hey, I told you it was fun, didn't I?
That is fun. Okay, you won. Okay, that's fun.
So that, and I never use these presets in the camera. So this was a whole new thing for me. They had one. All right, I'm going to get mail on this one too. They have selective color. All right, so selective color is a black and white image where only one color is rendered. You want just the green things to show up green. Everything is black and white. The
picture
red.
of your wife with a rose, and only the rose is red. Yes.
And this is something that any serious photographer knows is something you never ever do, because you will be teased and criticized for eternity for doing selective color.
Yes.
It is so much fun. I was out there. There was a woman in a bright yellow raincoat. So I set it for selective yellow. Yeah. Wow, that raincoat just popped out. It was so much fun.
That's cool. Hey, selective colors coming back, just like bell bottoms are coming back. So it's like everything is cyclical, man. Come on.
Yeah, I was in New York earlier this year doing some street photography. I found this beautiful location, a nice wall, and I said, oh, what I would give for somebody to walk by with red shoes. 20 seconds later, a guy walks by with bright red shoes. So it turns out not only are really colorful shoes in vogue right now, but red ones in particular are hot.
Yeah.
So you go to any major city in the world and you'll find bright red shoes all over.
I actually own a pair of bright red Puma driving shoes.
You are so trendy.
I'm a fan of it.
So anyway,
all right.
So again, the fun category, the Instax printer, the film emulations, the selective color, just the ease of use of this, all that stuff is coming together to make just a really nice camera.
I feel like you're buying this camera if you haven't already.
Nope.
You're not going to buy it? Oh, okay.
Going back this afternoon.
Ah, okay. All right, well, let's talk about the competition for this. Who's in the ring with this guy?
And the reason it's going back is because I have to do these reviews. I can't afford to have fun.
Oh, whatever. This is your fun. Get out of here.
Okay.
Don't let him fool you, audience. Doug lives for these reviews.
We've talked about competition already to some extent. It's hard to know what to compare it to. You mentioned at the top of the show the Lumix GX7.
Right.
Same size camera for the body, at least. It's only $100 more when you put a lens on it. Mm-hmm. That's a viable competitor. Why would you want that? If you really want a camera that's part of the Micro Four Thirds system, if you want interchangeable lenses, go that way. No question about it. You can't go.
If you want a touchscreen, just saying. I'm just saying.
If you want a touchscreen, that's right.
Right.
There are some people who do. Likewise, the Sony A6000, the Alpha 6000, a terrific camera. I think it's going to be not from us. We don't do that so far, but a lot of people are calling that camera of the year. $550 for the body, $700 with the kit zoom, 24 megapixels, much larger sensor. It's APS-C, has EVF, electronic viewfinder, tilt screen. Really a nice camera. Great autofocus. One of the best autofocusing cameras you can buy. Yeah. So those are two real cameras. But if we go down into the sort of non-interchangeable lens world, we've got things like the Canon G1X, which is $550. We've even got the Lumix LX7, which costs less than $400.
Right.
Again, those are cameras that are still too big for a pocket, even my pocket, even my MC Hammer pockets.
I don't want that. Yeah, I need a picture of you with an MC Hammer pants on, with a camera in the pocket, and you're all about the gear tank top. I think you should do that.
Oh man, there ought to be a law. So there are a lot of cameras. I don't know the LX7 or the G1X. I've never actually used them, but a lot of people are comparing this camera to those types of cameras, which are, let's call them down market cameras, if you will. That's sort of insulting, but they're less expensive.
Yeah. What about that new the Lumix LX100 that I think you reviewed that one, right?
Yeah, LX100, great camera. I love it, but that's getting up there in price. That's a $900 camera, I think.
That's right. Yeah, I'm looking at it online right now. B&H has it for $900 on the spot. Yeah.
Yeah, and so that's that's pretty pricey up there, and that's still a big camera, still too big for my pockets. Yeah. And so 900 versus 600, you're talking more money. I love that camera too, but it's not in this sort of lower end fun camera. It's hard to think of $600 as low end because that's a lot of money.
That is a lot of money. Yeah.
But it's pretty good. So another thing that you ought to be looking at also is the Sony RX lines.
Yeah.
Here's that.
Which are beautiful cameras, and those things just get rave reviews online. People love those cameras.
Yeah, and here's mine. I've got the RX100 Mark III. Try.
And that's the one with the pop-up EVF, right?
Yeah, pop-up electronic viewfinder. And that one is in the 800. That's $800. This is $600, but for $650 you can get the Mark II version of this that doesn't have the viewfinder. Sorry, this one, but it's still a very good camera. So that's something to consider. Again, if you want a pocketable camera, then this Fuji X30 isn't going to cut it for you. And you can even go all the way down to the PowerShot S120. A terrific camera, fits in a pocket, only $400. No interchangeable lenses, of course, not even a viewfinder, doesn't have a tilt display, but an excellent camera if you want to go into that small pocket camera. So, big question,
my bottom line question is always, who is it for? Who should be buying this? Like I said at the top, Doug, so in my little ecosystem, I've got this guy, right? So I've got my little iPhone 6. I've got my Micro Four Thirds system that I can pick from depending on what I'm doing. If it's something big, it's the GH4, which is over there. If it's medium sized, it's a GX7, and I can put a 50 mil equivalent lens on there and hit the town with it. Or the little GM1 or GM5 is a tiny one. So with that kind of ecosystem, this guy doesn't really have a place, or does it have a place?
It does, but not in that ecosystem, obviously.
Right.
So
right.
Who would want this camera? I would think that, first of all, this is going to sound weird for All About the Gear, but this is a great camera, first of all, for people who are not particularly serious about their photography. If you want,
you're going to get mail about that.
Yeah, well, but this is only one of the use cases, all right? So one of them is people who want to take great pictures, who want a camera that's easy to use, that has lots of simple features, but it also has the sophistication of a serious camera if you want it. In other words, if you want to go into aperture priority and shutter priority, and if you want to do bracketed exposures, it's all there, but it's also a very good camera for just taking pictures in auto and semi-auto mode. When you want to do that selective color, for example, you switch this camera to filter mode, which is essentially an auto mode, and it's doing everything for you.
It seems like it would be an ideal dinner camera. Well, you know how people take pictures of their food, especially with that macro capability on that, and you could take pictures of your food, pull out your Instax printer, print a print of it, and give it to the waiter to give to the chef.
Yeah, look at the hair on my soup. Yeah,
exactly. Is that a fly wing in there?
On the other hand, there's almost nothing as good as a phone for taking pictures of dinners. So
that's right.
It's hard to pass on that. So again, that's one use case. People who don't need a serious camera.
Right.
The other is people who do need a serious camera, who have a serious camera, but want to get away from it. Who want a camera that just allows them to go out and have a good time, do some fun stuff, maybe use the Instax printer, maybe use some of the special emulations and filters. If you want that, it's a great camera because it's again, Fuji is just a pleasure to work with. The camera is easy to use, and we've talked in the past about Fuji, the company. Of all the people making cameras today, Fuji is the vendor who excels at customer listening, let's say. They come out regularly with firmware upgrades that actually improve the quality of the camera. There's a new one coming out next month, new firmware upgrade for the XT1, the X100S. They're adding this Chrome film emulation into the older cameras.
Wow. Okay.
They're constantly improving their cameras, not just the new models, but even the ones that you've invested in a year or 2 years ago.
Very cool. All right. So bottom line for this, you said you're not buying one. Should people that are in the market? I know what you're going to say. Well, if you've got an X20, you should probably consider upgrading because of A, B, and C, right?
Yeah.
Or
well, it's a much better camera than the X20.
Okay.
The X20 didn't even have a viewfinder, so it's a big jump. But and I don't think the market for this camera is such that it's one that people are looking to upgrade to. But if you want to have a camera that takes great pictures, that's a lot of fun, that you don't have to take too seriously, this is an excellent camera.
All right. Well, cool. Well, I can't wait to see your final number review on the All About the Gear blog post page for this. So we'll have to hold out for that. What's next, Doug? What else do you have in your coffers over there that you're going to review?
Yes. By the way, speaking of reviews and ratings, because I don't know how this is going to stack up in terms of numbers, but I was noticing Valerie in her Street Focus show is getting terrific ratings on iTunes.
Yeah.
Now, she's got a new show. We've been around for over a year, and she's got more review and ratings than we do. So I want particularly people who like the show. If you don't like the show, you've probably turned it off by now and everything's fine. If you like the show, head on over to iTunes and give us 5 stars and a positive review. We'd love to have you.
Yeah, please do. Yeah, it's a competition now. Doug and Valerie head to head. Look at that.
Yeah, and she's pulling away from me here. We've got one review, and it's from somebody who just hates the show, apparently. So we've got to do better than that.
So if you love the show, get in there and rate it and review and tell us, what you think. Give us an honest review.
And do that for all.
It doesn't have to be overly positive. Just be honest. Tell us what you think.
And all the shows for the TWiP network, those reviews over on iTunes help a lot. So please go over there for those of you who do use iTunes. Yes. In terms of what's coming up next, we have right here. Oh God, it's heavy. The Canon 7D Mark II, which I've been shooting with, and that's coming up next. And then after that, we're going back into the world of Lytro. We have the new Lytro, the Lytro Illume, which
you finally got your hands on that thing. That thing's like a Yeti or something.
It is, but it'll be here in a week, and it will be going with me on a trip. So we'll have a good time. That's what's coming up.
Okay, so that was an excellent review of this particular camera, and I'll tell you what hit it over. What kind of has me scratching my head a little bit is the idea that I can print directly from that little camera to my favorite new toy, and that's that Instax SP1, which is insane. I wish other camera manufacturers would get in on that, or Fuji would allow them to print directly from whatever camera you have to that printer. That would be really, really cool. So cool, Doug. That's it for another episode of All About the Gear. I guess we'll see you guys next time.
Yep, we'll be back. Thanks, Frederick.
You're welcome. See you soon.
Bye-bye.